Picture this. You're sitting there replaying the last conversation you had with her. She seemed distant, distracted, maybe even disinterested. Your heart's racing, your mind's overthinking every word, every look, every moment. And then it hits you. She's pulling away. The instinct kicks in. You want to fix it, to reach out, to remind her of everything you've shared. But here's the shocking truth. Most men do exactly the wrong thing in this situation. Instead of bringing her closer, they end up pushing her further away. I get it. It feels counterintuitive. When someone you care about starts slipping away, the natural response is to hold on tighter. But here's the deal. The harder you grip, the faster they run. And in this video, I'm going to explain why that happens, and more importantly, how to stop it in its tracks. When a woman starts to lose interest, you're standing at a crossroads. This isn't just about what you feel, it's about how you choose to respond. And that response, it can either reinforce her decision to leave or make her stop and think, wait, am I making a mistake? But here's where most men go wrong. They act out of fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of rejection. And let me tell you, fear is a terrible foundation for attraction. What you need to understand is this. Attraction thrives on confidence, independence, and a sense of self-worth. The minute you start acting like you're chasing her approval, you lose all three. Let me share a story that might sound familiar. There's this guy. Let's call him Jake. Jake starts noticing that his girlfriend, Sarah, isn't as responsive as she used to be. She's not texting back as quickly, not laughing at his jokes, and when they hang out, she seems distracted. So Jake panics. He starts sending her good morning texts every single day, even when she doesn't reply. He plans surprise dates, buys her flowers, and goes overboard with compliments like, "You're the most amazing woman in the world. I don't know what I'd do without you." You can probably guess what happens next. Instead of Sarah feeling flattered, she feels overwhelmed. She starts pulling away even more. Jake's efforts, which came from a place of love, end up making her feel trapped, and worse, less attracted to him. Why? Because Jake's actions screamed insecurity. He was trying to prove his worth instead of showing that he already knew it. Here's what Jake, and maybe even you, need to hear. Doing less is often the key to getting her attention back. Think about it. When someone is pulling away, chasing them only confirms that they hold all the power. But when you step back and focus on yourself, something interesting happens. You create space for her to wonder about you, to miss you, to question why you're not reacting the way she expected. This isn't about playing games, it's about shifting the focus back to you. When you prioritize your own value, your independence, and your confidence, you naturally become more attractive, not just to her, but to anyone in your life. And that brings us to the heart of this video. The 5 critical mistakes most men make when a woman loses interest. These aren't just oops moments, they're relationship killers. I'm talking about actions that scream desperation, weaken your position, and all but guarantee she'll pull further away. But here's the good news. Once you recognize these mistakes, you can avoid them. And in doing so, you set yourself apart from 90% of men. You become the kind of person who doesn't chase approval, but commands respect. And trust me, that shift is powerful. Before we dive into mistake number 1, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in Jake's shoes? Have you ever felt like you were losing someone you cared about and didn't know how to respond? Drop a comment below and share your story. I'll be checking the comments personally, and who knows, your experience might help someone else watching this video. And hey, if you're finding value in this so far, hit that like button to let me know. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because I'm here to help you navigate relationships with confidence and clarity. Alright, now that we've set the stage, it's time to get into the specifics. The first mistake is something almost every guy has done at least once: chasing her. And trust me, this one mistake alone can undo everything you've worked for. Stick with me, because I'm about to break down exactly why chasing never works, and what you should do instead to shift the dynamic in your favor. Let's dive in. Imagine this. She hasn't replied to your last text. It's been hours, maybe even days. You're sitting there, replaying your conversations, scrolling through her social media, trying to figure out what went wrong. You think, maybe if I just text her one more time, tell her how much I care, she'll come back to me. But here's the reality. Chasing her will only push her further away. I get it. When someone you care about starts pulling away, it feels like every fiber of your being is telling you to act, to do something, anything, to fix it. But here's the harsh truth. Chasing doesn't create attraction. It destroys it. Let's talk about why. The psychology of chasing, why it backfires. People value what they have to work for. It's human nature. And when you're chasing a woman, texting her constantly, showing up unannounced, or showering her with attention, you're sending one loud, clear message: I need you more than you need me. Here's why that's a problem. 1. It removes the mystery. Attraction thrives on curiosity and anticipation. When you're always there, ready to respond at a moment's notice, you're leaving nothing to the imagination. 2. It signals desperation. Women are incredibly intuitive. They can sense insecurity a mile away. And desperation? It's one of the biggest turnoffs. 3. It shifts the power dynamic. Chasing puts her in the position of control, making her the prize and you the pursuer. But relationships thrive on balance, not one-sided effort. Let me share a quick story. There was a guy, let's call him Alex. Alex had been dating a woman, Emily, for a few months. At first, everything was great, but then Emily started to pull away. She took longer to respond to his texts, canceled plans more often, and seemed distracted when they were together. So Alex panicked. He started texting her more, asking if everything was okay. He planned elaborate surprises to win her back, even showing up unannounced to her favorite coffee shop just to bump into her. But instead of reigniting her interest, Emily grew more distant. She felt smothered, overwhelmed, and like Alex didn't respect her space. Eventually, she broke things off entirely. Alex's mistake? He let his fear of losing her dictate his actions. By chasing her, he only reinforced a decision to walk away. So what should Alex and you do instead? Pull back. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but giving her the space she's already looking for is one of the most powerful things you can do. When you stop chasing, you're telling her, I respect your boundaries. I have my own life and priorities. I'm confident enough to let things unfold naturally. And here's the kicker. When you pull back, you create intrigue. Suddenly she's wondering why you're not texting as much. She's thinking about you instead of feeling chased. That shift can be magnetic. Here's the key takeaway. Your life should never revolve around one person. When you're focused on your own growth, your career, your hobbies, your health, you're not just filling the space she's leaving behind. You're becoming more attractive in the process. Confidence, independence, and self-worth are irresistible qualities, and pulling back allows you to showcase them. This doesn't mean playing games or ignoring her entirely. It's about creating balance. Show her that while you care about her, you're also someone who values himself. Before we move on, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in Alex's shoes? Have you ever chased someone only to watch them pull further away? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you handled it. And if you're finding these insights helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more actionable advice. Trust me, this is just the beginning, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Alright, so now you understand why chasing doesn't work and how pulling back can shift the dynamic in your favor. But here's the thing. Chasing isn't the only mistake men make in this situation. There's another habit that's just as damaging, one that might seem harmless but can completely kill attraction. Stick around because in the next section I'll reveal why over-explaining yourself is a major red flag and what to do instead to maintain your confidence and self-respect. Let's dive in. Let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself crafting the perfect text message? One that explains exactly how you feel, why you acted the way you did, and why she should stick around. You might tell yourself, if she just understands where I'm coming from, she'll feel the same way again. Here's the truth you need to hear. Over-explaining won't win her back. In fact, it often makes things worse. Let's break this down. When you sense a woman's interest fading, your first instinct might be to talk it out. You think, if I can just explain myself, show her how much I care, she'll get it. But here's the thing, a woman doesn't lose interest because she doesn't understand you. Most of the time, it's not about logic, it's about emotions. Something has shifted in how she feels. Over-explaining, no matter how heartfelt, comes across as you seeking validation. And guess what? That's not attractive. Think about it. When you explain yourself repeatedly, you're essentially saying, "Please see me the way I want to be seen." It's a subtle form of pleading, and pleading undermines confidence, your greatest asset in a relationship. Let me tell you a story. A guy I know, let's call him Mark, was in a similar situation. He noticed his girlfriend Rachel wasn't as affectionate as she used to be. She stopped calling him as often, and when they were together, her attention was elsewhere. Mark panicked. Instead of giving her space, he started explaining himself. Every time they talked, he'd say things like, "I know I've been stressed at work, but that doesn't mean I don't care about us," or, "I just want you to know how much you mean to me." At first, Rachel listened, but eventually she started pulling away even more. Why? Because Mark's constant need to explain himself came across as insecure. Rachel didn't need words. She needed to feel a spark again, something words alone couldn't create. Here's what Mark, and maybe even you, need to understand. Actions speak louder than words. When you stop over-explaining and start focusing on being confident and self-assured, you send a clear message. I'm secure in who I am. I respect myself enough not to beg for your understanding. I'll show you my value through how I live, not through what I say. Think about it, which is more impactful? 1. A man repeatedly saying, "I care about you, I'm trying so hard," or 2. A man who shows care through his consistent actions without needing constant affirmation? The second one, every time. Here's the thing most guys miss. You can't talk someone into feeling differently. Attraction, connection, and interest aren't things you can rationalize. They're things people feel. Instead of explaining yourself, focus on creating the emotional shift she's looking for. Show her you're steady and confident, even when things feel uncertain. Focus on your own growth and passions. When you're thriving in your own life, it naturally creates intrigue. Let her come to her own conclusions about you. Silence, paired with action, is incredibly powerful. When you stop over-explaining, you're giving her the space to think, reflect, and maybe even miss you, and that's far more effective than any long-winded text. Quick question. Have you ever found yourself over-explaining in a relationship? What happened? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how it played out and offer some advice. And if this is hitting home for you, hit that like button to let me know. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest of this series. I've got even more insights coming that will change the way you approach relationships for good. Now, here's the tricky part. Over-explaining isn't the only way men accidentally kill attraction. There's another mistake that's just as common and just as damaging. It's something you might think is harmless, even helpful. But done the wrong way, it can completely tip the balance of your relationship. Stick around because in the next section, I'll reveal why over-validating her is one of the fastest ways to lose her respect, and how to avoid it while building a healthier connection. Let's keep going. Here's something that might surprise you. Too much validation can hurt your relationship. I know what you're thinking. Wait, aren't compliments supposed to make her feel good? Well, yes, but when compliments and reassurances are given too often, they lose their meaning. Worse, they can backfire, making her feel overwhelmed or even suspicious. This mistake is a sneaky one because it feels like you're doing the right thing. You're telling her she's beautiful, smart, amazing. You're showing her how much she means to you. But here's the hard truth. Over-validating her doesn't make her feel closer to you. It creates distance. Let's break this down. When you're constantly praising her, telling her she's perfect, and reassuring her of your love, two things happen. 1, it feels insincere. Compliments lose their impact when they're given too often. Instead of feeling special, they can start to feel like empty words. 2, it creates imbalance. When you're always validating her, you're placing her on a pedestal, and that shifts the dynamic in the relationship. She becomes the prize, and you become the one chasing. And here's the kicker. When you rely on over-validating her, you're actually revealing your own insecurity. It's like you're saying, if I keep telling her how great she is, maybe she won't leave. But women aren't drawn to men who need to prove their worth. They're drawn to men who already know it. Let me share a quick story about a guy named Ryan. Ryan was dating this incredible woman, Emma. She was smart, funny, beautiful, the whole package. Ryan adored her, but he was also terrified of losing her. So every chance he got, he showered her with compliments. "You're the most amazing woman I've ever met. I can't believe how lucky I am to be with you. You're so perfect. I don't deserve you." At first, Emma seemed flattered, but after a while, things started to shift. Ryan noticed she wasn't as engaged in conversations. She didn't seem excited to see him anymore. Eventually, Emma admitted that she felt smothered and overwhelmed. Ryan thought he was showing love, but to Emma, it felt like pressure. His constant validation didn't make her feel cherished. It made her feel like he was trying too hard. Here's the lesson, Ryan, and maybe you need to learn. Validation works best when it's earned and meaningful. When you overdo it, you're essentially saying, "I need you to know how much I admire you so you'll stay." But when you hold back and offer genuine, well-timed compliments, it sends a completely different message. "I see your worth, but I also see my own. I admire you, but I don't need to overstate it to keep you around." Think of validation like a fine spice. You don't need to use a lot to make a big impact. Here are a few tips to get it right. Be specific. Instead of saying, "You're amazing," try, "I love the way you handled that tough situation at work. It shows how strong you are." Specific compliments feel genuine and thoughtful. Save it for the right moments. Compliments are most powerful when they're unexpected. Don't make them a daily routine, make them a pleasant surprise. Balance it with self-assurance. Show her that while you value her, you also value yourself. Confidence is the ultimate form of validation. Here's the thing. Relationships thrive on balance. When both partners feel appreciated, but not overwhelmed, it creates a sense of stability and mutual respect. Over-validating tips the scales, making her feel like the relationship is all about her, and that can feel exhausting over time. When you hold back just a little, you create space for her to reciprocate. Instead of making her the sole focus of admiration, you encourage a dynamic where both of you feel seen, valued, and connected. Now let's take a second here. Have you ever been in Ryan's shoes? Have you ever found yourself over-complimenting someone you care about, only to watch it backfire? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear how it played out. And if this insight is hitting home for you, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. This channel is all about giving you the tools to build stronger, healthier relationships, and we're just getting started. Alright, so now you understand why over-validating can hurt your connection and how to avoid it. But here's the thing. Compliments aren't the only way guys accidentally overdo it. There's another habit that's just as common and just as damaging. It's something so subtle you might not even realize you're doing it. In the next section, we're going to tackle the dangers of being too available and why always being there for her might actually push her away. Stick around. This next part could change the way you approach every relationship from now on. Don't be overly available. Let me paint a picture for you. She texts you, "Hey, are you free tonight?" You've been waiting all day to hear from her, so without a second thought, you reply, "Yeah, I'm free." What do you want to do? You feel good about being so available, right? Like you're showing her that you care? Wrong. Here's the hard truth. Being too available sends a message you don't want to send. It says, "I don't have anything else going on in my life. My time and attention revolve around you." And that? It's a massive turnoff. Let's talk about why being overly available doesn't work. Women are naturally drawn to men who have ambition, drive, and a life of their own. When you're constantly free, always ready to text back, rearranging your schedule to see her, it sends the opposite message. It tells her you're lacking focus, direction, or priorities outside of her. Here's why that's a problem. 1. It removes the mystery. Attraction thrives on curiosity. If she always knows exactly what you're doing and that you'll drop everything for her, there's no room for her to wonder about you. 2. It feels unbalanced. Relationships work best when both people have their own lives and interests. Being overly available shifts the balance, making it seem like she's your entire world, and that can feel overwhelming. 3. It communicates low value. Let's be real, someone who's always available comes across as someone who doesn't have anything else going on. And that's not attractive. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a guy, let's call him Chris. Chris started dating this woman, Laura. and things were going great at first. But as Chris fell harder for Laura, he started making himself too available. Every time she texted, he replied within seconds. If she wanted to meet up, Chris would cancel plans with his friends or skip the gym to see her. He stopped pursuing his own hobbies and basically made himself her 24/7 companion. At first, Laura liked the attention, but over time, something shifted. She started pulling away, canceling plans, and responding to texts less often. Eventually, she told Chris that she felt suffocated and needed some space. Chris was devastated. He thought he was showing his commitment, but what he was really doing was losing himself in the relationship, and in the process, losing her respect. So, what's the solution? Focus on your own life. Here's the thing, when you're driven, focused, and living your best life, it's not just attractive, it's magnetic. A full, exciting life makes you someone worth being around. Here are a few ways to do it. Pursue your goals. Whether it's advancing in your career, starting a side hustle, or working on a personal project, having ambitions outside of your relationship makes you more interesting and well-rounded. Make time for your friends. Don't ditch your social circle just because you're in a relationship. Maintaining friendships shows that you value connection and independence. Prioritize self-improvement. Hit the gym, pick up a new hobby, or learn a new skill. Growth not only boosts your confidence, but also shows her that you're always striving to be better. When you focus on these things, you're not only improving yourself, you're also creating a healthy distance that allows her to miss you and appreciate the time you spend together. Here's a little secret. When you're less available, you become more intriguing. Think about it. If she has to wonder, what's he up to? Why hasn't he texted me back yet? She's already thinking about you more. That curiosity creates a spark. It keeps the relationship fresh and exciting. Being less available doesn't mean ignoring her or playing games. It means valuing your time and showing her that while she's important, she's not your entire world. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself being too available in a relationship? How did it impact things? Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And hey, if this advice is resonating with you, hit that like button to let me know. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights that will help you build stronger, healthier relationships. This is the kind of advice that changes the game. So stick around. So now you know why being too available is a major turnoff, and how focusing on your own life can change the dynamic. But there's one mistake left that might surprise you. It's something that feels like an emotional release in the moment, but can completely destroy your chances of rekindling her interest. In the next section, we're going to talk about why begging or pleading is the ultimate relationship killer, and how to avoid it while keeping your self-respect intact. Let's dive in. Section 5. Imagine this. She's slipping away. You can feel it in every unanswered text, every canceled plan, every lukewarm response. Your heart is screaming at you to do something, anything, to make her stay. So, you pour your soul into a message. Or worse, you show up at her door, pleading for her to give things another chance. But here's the harsh truth. Begging or pleading won't make her stay. In fact, it almost guarantees she'll walk away. Let's talk about why this behavior is so destructive. When you beg or plead, what you're really doing is putting her on a pedestal. You're saying, you have all the power, my happiness, my self-worth, it's all in your hands. And here's the problem with that. No one is attracted to someone who sacrifices their dignity. Here's what begging communicates. 1. You're overly dependent. It shows that your emotional well-being relies entirely on her validation, which is a heavy and unattractive burden. 2. You're not confident. Confidence is one of the most attractive qualities you can have. When you beg, you're showing the opposite, that you doubt your own worth. 3. You've lost control. Begging shifts the power dynamic entirely in her favor, making the relationship feel unbalanced and unhealthy. Even if she cares about you, seeing you beg can create feelings of discomfort or even resentment. It's not the way to win someone back. It's the fastest way to push them further away. Let me share a story. There was a guy, let's call him Daniel. Daniel was deeply in love with his girlfriend Megan. But after a couple of years together, Megan started to pull away. She seemed less interested, more distant, and eventually told him she needed space. Daniel panicked. He called her non-stop, left her long voicemails, and even showed up uninvited at her apartment with flowers, saying, "I can't live without you. Please don't leave me." At first, Megan was sympathetic, but as the begging continued, she started to feel trapped. Daniel's desperation made her see him in a different light, not as the confident, secure man she fell for, but as someone who had lost his sense of self. Eventually, Megan broke things off completely, and while Daniel's intentions were pure, his actions drove her further away. Here's what Daniel, and anyone in his shoes, needs to understand. The way you handle rejection says everything about your character. If a woman is losing interest, the last thing you want to do is let panic dictate your actions. Instead of begging, take a step back and focus on these principles. Maintain your dignity. Show her that while you care deeply, you're strong enough to handle the situation with grace. Respect her decision. If she says she needs space, give it to her. It's in that space that she might start to miss you or reconsider her feelings. Value yourself. Remind yourself that your worth doesn't depend on any one person. Confidence in your own value is far more attractive than any grand gesture or emotional plea. When you handle rejection or the fear of rejection with confidence, you not only preserve your self-respect, but you also show her the kind of strength that's truly attractive. Here's the real takeaway. Confidence, independence, and self-respect are the keys to attraction. When you stand tall in the face of rejection, you're showing her that you're the kind of person who values yourself. And that's magnetic. Even if she doesn't come back, you'll walk away with your dignity intact, ready to attract someone who sees and values your worth. Remember, desperation repels, but self-assurance draws people in. The moment you stop chasing and start focusing on your own growth, you shift the dynamic entirely. Now, let's pause for a second. Have you ever been in Daniel's position? Have you ever let emotions take over and found yourself begging for a second chance? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how it played out and share some advice. And if this advice is hitting home, hit that like button to let me know. Don't forget to subscribe for more real, no-nonsense relationship tips that can transform the way you approach dating and connections. So, we've covered why begging or pleading is a huge mistake, and how standing tall, even in the face of rejection, can completely shift the dynamic in your favor. But here's the thing. Knowing what not to do is only half the battle. If you really want to turn things around, or move forward with confidence, you need a roadmap for building the kind of self-respect and independence that makes you truly magnetic. In the next video, I'm going to dive deeper into the specific habits and mindsets that make you irresistible, not just to her, but to anyone in your life. So hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and get ready to level up your relationships and your life. See you in the next one.